Buddy, Gates Adams here, and today I want to talk a little bit about what you focus on. Now, look, I've heard it a million different places, a million different ways, but whatever it is that you focus on is where you are naturally going to be drawn. Now, I've spent a significant portion of the last 6 months studying and learning about the subconscious mind and how it drives the actions that we take. And ultimately, this is this is the basic foundation. Whatever it is that you're focused on, you're going to drive towards. So, I've heard this example before. This is not an original Gates Adams by any stretch, but when you're driving along and you look off to the side of the road because something catches your attention, all of a sudden the car starts heading that way. Well, the same thing happens in our lives. So when I think about some of the struggles that I've had in trading, you guys have heard me talk about this devastating experience that I had 25 years ago. And really and truly, no matter what I was doing, that always came into focus. And so all of a sudden, I had this attention that was spent on this massive loss, on this, it didn't matter. If I would start to make some gains, if I would start to have some wins, that's what happened 25 years ago. I had these massive gains, and then all of a sudden it all came crashing down. And it was very difficult for me to not focus on that every subsequent time I tried to go back into the world of trading. I've done this multiple times over the couple of decades at this point, and I've seen this happen. I saw it happen last year. If you guys have been following me, you've seen some of the effects of that, which looking back, I can have a good chuckle at. But, the reality is having that focus has really driven me into that space. I mean, I think about really the big hit that I took last year was in June. And oh yeah, I love that little thumbs up right there. It was in June, and I was primed for a five-figure payout. And it was coming up on the minimum number of days. Everything was doing what it needed to be doing. And I started to get really excited. And I started to think about all of the things that I would be able to do, all the things that I would be able to communicate, and all the things that I would be able to do for my family I started counting my money. And it was inevitable. The memory of the first trading scenario and then various subsequent trading scenarios came back into play. And then I had a bad day. And then I had another bad day. And before long, I had blown all of my accounts, and I had to start back over from scratch. And it hurt. And so what this did was this gave me even more fodder. So the next time I came back in and the next time I started to see some gains, this became this perceived pattern. I knew exactly what was going to happen because it happened 25 years ago. It happened 7 or 8 years ago. Heck, it just happened a few months ago. So all of a sudden, I started having this, all of my attention started focusing on that. So while I thought I was working on coming up with creative ways to avoid this happening again, the reality was all I was doing was focusing on these events and this pattern that I was experiencing. So guess what happened? In November, pattern repeated itself once again. Took all the gains that I had, blew my accounts, had to start over. And here's the thing. I've had this happen now several times, and I even talk about it regularly. You guys hear me talking about this. There's no way that I can remove these experiences from my focus. So what do I have to do? I have to dilute the effect of those experiences with visualization on what I see coming next. And I know this sounds a little, people love to use the phrase woo-woo or whatever the case may be, but at the end of the day, I have to take the vast majority of my attention, significantly more time and energy that I spend thinking about what happened before, because thinking about it at this point is inevitable. And I have to have that positive visualization of what's to come next. So now, for every moment that I spend thinking about the losses, I have to spend 3 to 5 times that much energy focused on winning, focused on that visualization. Well, if it hasn't happened yet, I don't have that memory. I don't have that recall to pull from. That means that I have to create this in my head. So you guys have heard me talk about meditation, and this is something that I do in meditation. I've also taken on and done some work with hypnosis. In fact, the hypnotist that I've been working with has been working with me on self hypnosis. So multiple times a day, I'll actually go through a process of visualization under a hypnotic state to create more emotion and more of a more traction with my subconscious mind within that state to give more credence to this visualization that hasn't happened yet. And because it hasn't happened, and because I have to go this route, and because I'm fighting against a memory, something that did happen, and quite frankly, something that is so deeply ingrained because of the emotion attached to it, I have to fight that much further with that visualization. And so this is something that I do consistently every single day. Multiple times a day at this point in most cases. So ultimately, you can't get rid of the baggage. The baggage is there, but you can dilute it. And if you dilute it, you can start to see movement in the right direction. Well, just like those losses last year and a few years ago started to add to the evidence that when I start to get to a certain point, I blow my accounts. Now I can start taking the positives, the wins as I move forward, and I can start stacking those as evidence that I will win, that I will continue to grow and develop and move forward as a trader. Now, this is something that has worked for me very, very well. And as I start to get back into the charts in the next couple of weeks, you'll start to see how I utilize this on a day-to-day basis. I'll talk about it as I'm live. I'll start doing some recaps and things like that. Some other things that I'm looking forward to sharing with you guys as we go through that process. Anyway, that's what I've got for you today. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me today, as always. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. I appreciate you guys. I love you all. God bless.